Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Marabunta Roll and Divide. Now this is a two-player only area control game by Dr. Reiner Knizia. This one takes around 30 minutes to play on average. Now before I get started on my thoughts on Marabunta, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so Marabunta is going to look like this once it is set up, where you have this modular board here where you can play on either side, and this board is going to be going to show all the areas that you are trying to control, all depicted by a different colour. Attached to the main board you have your little personal player area, which shows your crates that you're trying to collect to get bonus abilities, this little cupcake track which can get you some more victory points, as well as having a little victory point track itself in the corner of your player board. There's also going to be a bunch of these tiles that are going to be randomly shuffled. As long as this one is at the bottom of the stack, there's going to be a supply of these dice, as well as a marker for each of the players. Now the objective of this game is to get as many victory points as you can by controlling each of these regions, as well as collecting cupcakes as you go along, and there's even potential to get some bonus points through the collection of these different crates. The game flow is pretty simple, where the first player is going to roll this cluster of dice. The dice are all going to be assigned to a different region. And also you're going to reveal the top tile from the stack here, which is going to be another thing that the player needs to consider, because the first player is going to have to divide this tile and the 6 dice as they see fit. So without putting much thought into this, they might do something like this, and then put these 4 together like so. Now the player who did not divide the dice and tile up will get a first selection of which of these groups they want. So for example, as the red player, I divided these up, and then the blue player might say, you know what, I want to take this group here. So therefore they'll take this selection and then start using the dice and the tile for its abilities. So let's talk about what all these different things do. So the numbers are simply going to be your influence for each of the regions. So you can see here that this is going to give me a 3 in this particular region. So therefore the blue player might want to write a 3 here like so. I'm using my left hand here, so forgive me for my writing. Normally you would have to expand off from an existing region, so the blue player could write here or here now, anywhere they want, as long as they're connecting to a number already theirs. But normally to start with, or in order to spawn in a new spot, you'll need to tick off one of these spots up here as a kind of a molehill or an anthill to start spawning in other regions, because again you can only normally put numbers next to where you already have a number. Now the crates are useful because it allows you to tick off things on your player board. Like for example, I could tick off these 2 and then put a 1 in any region, or a 2. You can tick off the next 2 cupcakes, which will start generating you victory points. Start writing 0s in, which are nice little blockers, or even it's just generating you pure victory points. Whenever you see a 0, you can write them in any region, still abiding by that adjacency rule, but they're not restricted by the colours themselves. And the last type is these little flag symbols, and these are really useful because they are, again, each assigned to a different region. In this example, this one is going to be this one here. And let's say, the red player had this one in their collection, so they ended up drafting that one. What they're going to do is they are going to tick off one of these circles in their colour, or colour it in like so. Again, I'm using my left hand here. And that means that that particular region is going to be worth an extra victory point them should they win it. You can see that the potential is going to be 6 more of these kind of uncoloured circles, so you've got a potential of 8 points per region if you manage to tick them all off. Now let's take a look at some of the bonus tiles. So this one here is going to be the last one, where each turn the player is going to tick off one of these cupcakes. Now these cupcakes are nice because once you venture into that region, you're going to tick off your next cupcake and start generating you some more victory points. The more the merrier, essentially. And they're going to be one of the endgame triggers, because as soon as all the cupcakes are gone, that's going to be the final round. Another of the endgame triggers is that once one of the kind of scoring leaves is all ticked off, That will trigger the end, as well as one of the regions being completely filled. That'll be another one of the potential endgame triggers. The other tiles will be things like this, where you can use the same die twice, tick off 2 of your commodity chests, tick off 2 different scoring zones, cross off 2 regions, which basically means that that particular hex is going to be nullified for all of the players. A great way to block people out of getting into regions, because of course you can never share a spot with anybody else or your opponent. Write a 1 in a box, write 2 zeros next to each other, or even this one here where you can write a 0 anywhere. And that is essentially how the game works, just back and forth, dividing up those dice and tiles, and putting your presence on the map, trying to have the majority, and getting as many points as you can by boosting the influence in the regions that you are kind of dominating. And of course, using these bonuses to your advantage. And again, the player is good, well, with the most points after one of those endgame triggers has been resolved, will be the winner. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on Marabunta. And I want to start with the kind of overall impression of the game, which is that there's a lot of game in a small box here. It's very rare that you'll get like a full-on area control game in such a short time frame. And area control games in general rarely work at 2 players, and this game works exceptionally well for a 2-player game with the area control mechanism. And something that we seldom see in board games that I definitely think needs to be used more is the I split you choose mechanism. It's a mechanism that I generally enjoy. Some fantastic games such as Hanamakoji have used that before, and generally those I split you choose games are kind of set collection games where you're using cards and things. This one is such a cool hybrid of an area control game with an I split you choose dice game, which is such a a unique blend of things going on here, and it creates some very, very tough decisions, especially as the board starts to unravel and new opportunities arise or go away. Having to use the dice to your advantage to block people out or start dominating certain regions. But of course, you are putting the ball in the field of your opponent before you get what is remaining. So you have to be very careful about how you leverage those dice, because you could be an idiot and put all the best ones together, but your opponent is going to take those tiles before you get what's left. So you do have to be very careful about that split. Maybe try and mix one key dice or one key tile that your opponent needs with a bunch of stuff that you're not that interested in, so that you get the remaining stuff and start spamming your presence on the map. I absolutely love this leaf mechanism. I think this is ingenious. If you are dominating a certain region and you're confident in winning it, you can start pumping in your efforts to boosting that particular region. But of course, your opponent might know that and leverage that dice against you, because even if, say, I am losing massively in one of the regions, I might still want to take that dice because I'm going to start hurting my opponent's potential to score more points from that region. I love that investment in the different regions. It's never going to be a bad thing to invest in it, but it can be more punishing to your opponent than you if you leverage it correctly. I think these crates that offer you the extra powers are a nice touch. It doesn't add too much complexity to the game, but it is another little thing you need to consider. And even things such as leaving opportunities for the the cupcakes can be important, because there might be a cupcake right next to where your opponent wants to go next, but you go first. Maybe you'll grab a power like something like this and take that cupcake before your opponent can jump in there and get those additional points. So there's definitely little wrinkles here. Lots of things going on, even a timing exercise when it comes to triggering these, because once you trigger these crates, you need to use that ability straight away and you cannot reserve it for later. So it's all a timing exercise that again adds another dimension to the game. A very small nitpick I had with the game was the use of the ant hills, because you start the game pretty much having to use one straight from the get-go. I think it would have been nice if maybe you had another one because of that, or maybe it wasn't a rule that you have to tick one off to start the game in the first place. It just seems like, what's the point in having to tick one off straight away to even get going? And I do like that ability of having that, you're backed into a corner, you can't really go anywhere, therefore you need an anthill to start spawning somewhere else and maybe start grabbing some landmass from your opponent. But I think it would have been nice to have maybe one more option to have an extra anthill to get you out of that corner. So mechanisms-wise, I think this game is fantastic. I generally like area control game, with that added commodity speculation, with the investment in the regions, layered on top with this dice rolling system, I split, you choose mechanism going on. There's a lot going on here in such a simple rule set, and for a 30-minute time frame, I think that is fantastic. This game plays, or again, offers a lot in a small box in a small amount of time. The player interaction is a fundamental part of the game. It's a very competitive head-to-head nature of a game. That I split, you choose mechanism is so palpable. You do not want to give your opponents easy decisions to make, and you want to leverage things just right. So I think the replayability is fantastic because you are tactically reacting to the dice available to you. You're never going to have the same options, and different things are going to be worth different things to you each time you play. So again, always that kind of tactical nature of reacting to what you want at that time. So it's not the kind of game you're going to get fatigued with through seeing the same things. Although you're not necessarily doing different things each time, those decisions are going to be different each time. And the production for this game is very nice. These are these kind of laminated style boards. They are double-sided, so you have a different kind of map layout that can slightly change the feel of the game. And even these sheets are double-sided for a slight change on how those crates work and the rewards that they'll offer you. So again, nice little touches there, but all in all, the actual production is very nice. You can write straight onto the board. They all wipe off nicely, with no issue at all. The artwork is all good. The symbology is nice and clear. And again, this is a very good value game you're getting here for probably less than £20. You've got a lot of game here to sink your teeth into and keep you coming back. Okay, so let's share some final thoughts on Marabunta, and unsurprisingly, I love this game. It is so well put together. That hybrid of the area control, the dice rolling, the I split you choose, with the tiles on top, the extra little powers you can use. The tough decisions that you're bombarded with from the get-go, the sense of urgency, the blocking, the investment in the regions. This is a lot of game in such a short little time frame. And the way that Knizia managed to pull so many things together in such a clean design constantly, well, I'm just always in awe of his design prowess. He really is a master of his craft, and he keeps them coming out with these absolute bangers. And Marabunta, I think this one could be up there with the great two-player games. I think it is that good, and it's going to fit straight into my collection. It has a timeless degree of elegance to it. It certainly doesn't feel convoluted, yet there's enough going on here to keep you interested. It's just a triumph of a design. You rarely get this kind of a design in such a short amount of time, and I think this is up there with the two-player greats. There's a lot of two-player games that have stood the test of time. Your Lost Cities and things like that Knizia has designed himself. But this one I think is as good as those classics. And again, offering a two-player area control game to this degree is just, it really is impressive. So I do not hesitate at all to recommend this game. If you like two-player games, you want a small box game in your collection that you can play with a partner or something with a competitive edge, then and also if you like that I split you choose mechanism, this is one of the best examples of that I've seen. It's such a great mix of or blend of things, that area control with the I split you choose. I don't think I've seen that before, and it is pulled off here to perfection. So yeah, again, huge commendation for me for Marabunta.